I loved it. I would have done anything to be a wrestler from the year 8 years old on up.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and he agreed to work out with me and got me booked on Atlanta TV. And my second TV taping, I got to work with Bob and Brad Armstrong.
Wow. The Armstrongs. Wow.
Don't get any better than that, does it?
No, I don't. Right off the bat, man, you're thrown in with the best. And I want to jump in there. I'll go back just a step forward. The chief of police in Rome, Georgia, and I were really good buddies. I was a quail hunter, and he was a big-time hunter. I had Brittany Spaniel bird dogs, and he had Brittany Spaniel. Well, of course, he was friends with President Carter, so I used to call him John. I can't remember his last name. John
Collins?
John Collins. Yeah,
John Collins.
John, let's go down. Let's go bird hunting. I got my dogs ready, so he'd meet me in Atlanta, pick me up. We go down the plains down there, not on President Carter's land. He used to tell me we'd be walking those fields. He said, "You know, there's a kid here. He's always in trouble. Always in trouble." He said, "I know him like my own kid because he's so damn great. He's in trouble so much." And he loves professional wrestling. He wants to be a professional wrestler, and he got the tools to do it there. So I first heard of you through John years and years, a couple of years before you ever got in the business. So when I finally saw you there, you know, I thought, wow, I didn't know who you were or anything. Started asking questions because, you know, Arn, you're like me. You see somebody that kind of sparks your interest. You want to know a little bit about it because you'll probably meet them somewhere down the line. So I found out you were that guy John Collins had been talking about all the time there. I said, wow, man. But, man, you know, you fit right in with that organization. You had that style. You had that Southern style because you'd watched it all your life. And that's the only style that you really knew is to be aggressive there. And you carried that on, and you kept refining it until you become the star that you are, man. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I tell you, you know, I'm still friends with John. Yeah. He lives here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I see him from time to time. What a small world. I had no idea.
Crazy.
Yeah, well, you know, his kid, I know his son all the time, you know, I've known him since before I knew you.
Yeah, that's really, really, really cool. Really is. Wow. And thanks for the kind words. And, you know, once I got that match with Bob and Brad, just to kind of button this up a little bit, Bob said, "I've never seen you around, you know, how long you been working?" I said, "Well, I've had about 6 workouts and this is my second match." He says, "Are you shitting me?" He says, "Well, listen, I'm booking Pensacola. We're just here to get TV exposure. You know, would you like to come down and work for us?" I said, "Well, are you kidding me? My God." And I was kind of speechless. He said, "You got a job?" At the time, Jerry, I was cutting meat in a grocery store, warehouse groceries. And for Rome, that was a good job.
Yeah.
You know, paid pretty good. But, you know, he said, "Well, if you got a job, I can only use you 3 weeks." And I said, "I just quit that job. I don't want to be a meat cutter. I want to be a wrestler." So Bob and them used me for 3 weeks. And then they sent me to Watts, 5 months there. And then I went to Georgia Championship Wrestling with Matt Bourne as my partner. And Paul Ellering was our manager. And that was really my first break.
Wow. Who gave you the name Anderson? How did that come about?
Believe this or not, we're sitting in, I was Marty Lundy when I wrestled for Bill Watts. And they were getting ready to send Matt Bourne to Atlanta. He was partners with Duggan and DiBiase, the Rat Pack in Louisiana. They were the top heels. So they're getting ready to send Bourne to Atlanta. They needed a partner. And just out of nowhere, we're sitting here they were talking about that. And JYD looked at Bill Watts and he went, "Hey, Bill, why don't you send Lundy? He looks just like Ole Anderson. Make him an Anderson." And Bill Watts looked at me and he looked at him and he said, "That's a great idea.
Wow.
Lundy, I'm going to call. You got any problems with going to work in Atlanta?" That's where I was from.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And a week later, he said, "Hey, you finish up in 2 weeks and you start in Atlanta." JYD got me that break. He basically made me an Anderson.
Yeah. How did Ole accept you when you came in there? I mean, was it
You know what's crazy is is when I walked in for our first meeting. He looked back. I was waiting on him to cuss me for what I've heard.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, Jesus Christ, you do look like me." I don't know if he was having a bad day or what, but he missed a good chance to cuss me right off the get-go because I was shell-shocked when I walked in there.
Yeah.
Jerry, what was your relationship like with Ole? I mean, I'm sure you guys worked together a bunch.
And thanks for asking that. I had a strange relationship with Ole because I was a business partner with Ole. But,
Yeah.
I told this story the other day on JBL and I's podcast, because we were talking about, Georgia and of course Ole and everything. And of course, when we made our sell to Vance there. And, there's a big fallout there. So, I'd gone, and when I turned like 75 years old, I told John, I had one of those epiphanies. I'm tired of the hate in the world. I'm tired of the negative stuff in the world. I'm going to Charlotte for that autograph session that they have up there every year.
That team or the gathering.
Yeah, whatever. It wasn't a gathering. It was a Greg Price deal before that. So.
Okay.
So anyway, I knew Ole would be there. And I told my wife before, I said, you know what? I'm going to go up and I'm going to thank Ole. What are you going to thank him for? You hate him. I don't hate anybody now. I'm through with all that damn hate stuff. It's too hard to hate. It's too hard to be pissed off at somebody. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up. When I first started in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was more or less married to Gene and Ole Anderson, me and Sandy Scott, me and Thunderbolt Patterson, and me and my brother, Arn, how they programmed up there when you got programmed with them for a year and a half, 2 years. So, I mean, and I was a young guy, just getting my feet wet. I'd never been on top anywhere except I just started in the business basically. Gene and Ole took me, and they worked my ass off. That's one thing I'll always respect about Ole Anderson. When you went in the ring with Ole Anderson, if you wasn't prepared to go in there and fight back and to give him a contact, he would eat your ass alive and not feel bad about it. But if you went in there and you showed a little smoke, you showed a little fire, and you showed a little resistance, then you're going to have the match of your life and you're going to be better because of it. And that's one thing. Every time I stepped in the ring with Ole Anderson, I stepped in there being ready, mentally prepared, physically prepared, and the best of my abilities I could, because I knew after that match was over with, I have learned something and I've become a better worker. So Ole sitting there in Charlotte, North Carolina, just had the banquet, big crowds around me. People see me coming up to them, there's all that perspective heat there. And they kind of back, what's going to happen there? I walk up to Ole, stick my hand out, and he don't recognize me, because I've lost my hair, when I had all the hair. And I said, no, you're not. And they go, yes, Ole, that's Gerald Brisco. Well, what the fuck you want? I said, I stuck my hand. I said, I want to shake you. And I told him the same thing. I really I enjoyed being in the ring with you. You made me a better worker. You made me a better performer. You taught me a lot. I want to thank you for that. Thank you. God bless you. Turned around and walked away. And to me, I buried all that heat, but I had something I could thank him about, and I did. Like an Ole Anderson as a working competitor, I loved him to death. I loved competing with him. But as a business partner, it was two different Oles, and I'm not ashamed to say that. He's not ashamed to say that. But I had one of those love-hate relationships. I loved being in the ring with him, hated being in the boardroom with him.
Thank God. Well, just thank God that you could separate the two, Yeah. One thing that I learned, and I really didn't even, I did. I realized I was learning it from the first time we tagged. I realized he made the babyface work for everything they got. You wasn't going to just, nail him and him could take a bump for you. You had to work to get him down, and the longer the match went, and it was in every aspect of what he did. If you reverse something, he would take it right back away from you and make you earn it again. And it's one of those things that for me, it stayed with me my entire career. Make the baby faces work for it, because the fans appreciate you more. They see you're having to fight for everything you get, and it's not just a heel feeding you. And a lot of guys just don't get that today. That struggle of back and forth until somebody finally gets control. It's too easy, in my opinion, these days, for somebody just to take over on somebody and start running high spots when you've lost that first 3 or 4 minutes of who's going to get control of this match so they can push the issue. And that I learned from Ole right away, right off the get-go.
Well, Arn, and you know, that's the blessing that we have working in those territorial days with guys like that. You know, with the Genes and the Oldies and the Hawks and the Hansons and, you know, some of those older guys that we're privileged to work with in the business there. And you get a level of toughness that comes from that. And speaking of toughness, Arn, I'll talk to you about something here, and you know, I'd love to have you on my podcast so we could talk Arn Anderson for an hour and a half there. So maybe we can arrange that when I get off of here.